Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to IHWE Radio. This is David Fuller, the founder of IHWE, standing by right here live in Fort Worth, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, my normal co-host, Michael McCurdy, is celebrating his anniversary with his wife. They're out somewhere having a good time. Happy anniversary, Michael. Look forward to you coming back next week as much as I rib you. I do enjoy your company on the show. We're going to do a special edition tonight. I'm recovering from a sore throat. It has been a crazy weekend here in Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Last week we had an awesome show. Gorgeous Harry Young and Mick Foley reminisced. It was our most downloaded show ever since we started this. And, thank you, Mick, and thank you, Gary Young. We're going to get you guys back on here real soon. And thank you to everybody who commented. So many positive comments. It was a great kickoff to a fantastic evening, which I'm going to get into here in a few minutes. But we got a really special guest on the line. I made a phone call to Parts Unknown. And, not too many people know the number there. I happen to. Because I was friends with a certain somebody. I was friends with the General Skandar Akbar. And one of the things that Skandar, as Stan Hansen called him this past Saturday night, was General Akbar, he finally gave in and gave me that number. Not too many people have it. Dewey, Missing Link, King Kong Bundy, some of the Don Jardine, a masked assassin. Some of the biggest and baddest men come out of Parts Unknown. Have no idea where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. I just happen to have the phone number. So if you call in and you ask me where it's at, you're wasting your time. But I have a man on the phone who is a veteran of the Squared Circle. He was trained by the General Skandar Akbar, and he is a Texas Wrestling Hall of Famer. I've been in the ring with him. He has humbled me. A couple times when I needed an attitude adjustment, he wrapped that claw around my head, and now I call him Sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome at this time Spoiler 2000. Spoiler, welcome to the show. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get Spoiler back on the phone here. We'll be right back with more IHWE Radio. Stand by. We have technical difficulties, folks. It does happen all the time. So here we go. We're going to get Spoiler back on the line here. Parts Unknown is very tricky. It's extremely tricky. So we're going to, all right, here we go. Okay.
Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
okay, Spoiler,
can you hear me?
There?
Yes, I'm here, brother. How are you? Can you hear me?
I'm good. I was just telling the fans, Parts Unknown, they don't have the best wireless connection, so you may be in and out. How's it going?
I guess so, man. Everything's good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Hello?
I was just explaining to everybody who you are, trained by the General Skandar Akbar, Hall of Famer. You've been all over, got a lot of titles. Real quick, tell the fans what it was like being trained by the General, not a General, but the General Skandar Akbar.
Well, brother, first off, let me just say this. I appreciate the fact of you having me on here. You even asked me to be on your show. It's quite an honor. Secondly, being a part of the Hall of Fame this past Saturday was phenomenal, man. That was outstanding. I'm really honored and also humbled to be a part of that also. I just want to get that out to begin with. But I'll be more than happy to talk about Ak, dude. I've known Ak for probably, 20 plus years. I actually have only been wrestling. I've been a huge wrestling fan all my life, from the time I was a teen all the way up until the current that's going out now. I met Ak probably back in 87, 88, just by chance, happened to befriend him. And I've always told him that I've been interested in professional wrestling. That's not the reason that we basically became friends. We became friends because he's just a great guy, You could just sit and talk with the man and just like you and I are doing now and indulge in a conversation with him and, you'd be totally taken away from the wrestling business. That's how good of a guy he was outside of the business. Well, about 1990, I was just pressuring him, and telling him how much I was a wrestling fan, really wanted to get into the business, and, could he help me out? Well, he was currently running a wrestling school down at Doug's Gym in downtown Dallas. So I started training there, and the big hole in the wall, for those of you who have been there, walking through into that separate room at Doug's Gym and doing the Tuesday and Thursday night wrestling school, puking over the balcony from, working so hard in the heat, no air conditioning, no heater in the winter. So I started doing that. I told him of my total fascination with Don Jardine, the original Spoiler, and Akbar came up with that name of Spoiler 2000. Well, you may not know this, but that's when I started on the indie circuit, was in 2000. So Akbar gave me that name, Spoiler 2000, and with the blessing of Don Jardine. Akbar actually hooked me up with Jardine, and I talked with him on several occasions, and, it was very nice for him to say, hey, man, I think it's a great idea, go with it. And I carried on. I modernized the original Spoiler gimmick, to put a little modern twist on it. And so here we are now, So yeah, actually 2000's when I started, and I had to semi-retire, I guess you'd say, due to a knee injury. I had total knee replacement a couple of years ago, so that kind of put a hiatus on my wrestling. However, I feel I've recovered enough to be able to continue under certain circumstances. And because you've been so good to me as well as others, and and I hate to keep hogging the airwaves here, but I have had such a wonderful run. I've run into so many awesome people in Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, being a part of the NWA. It's just, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And it's all due to Ak. Ak's the one that got me started in the business, and he was with me, as my manager. I was part of Devastation Incorporated, which was quite an honor in itself. So, Ak led the way for me to be involved in my dream, to what I watched when I was a kid, and to be actively involved in professional wrestling. So that's basically how my involvement with Akbar.
Awesome. Well, you touched on a couple of things, and we're going to get to that. But, this past Saturday, you were inducted a couple of years ago, but you had something come up at the last minute. So you were there on Saturday, and we were able to give you your plaque. But you were there on Saturday. You actually got to partake in your first Hall of Fame, and boy, it was a scene. You had Skandar Akbar's family, who you're very close with. You had Maniac Matt Bourne's family, who flew down from Pittsburgh. You had Stanley Lariat Hansen. You had Gorgeous Gary Young. You had so many people. What was it like? Just you walk in, and I couldn't. I'm still looking at pictures, Spoiler, and I just can't believe it myself. I spent months organizing this, as I do every year. I do it. I don't get any monetary gain from it. I do it because I love the business. I was broke in,
right,
by Johnny Valentine, who was, very similar to Akbar in a lot of ways. What was it like for you on Saturday? You have to keep a low profile, obviously. You're like a superhero. You're like Clark Kent. So what was it like on Saturday?
Saturday, from the time I walked in, it was a Dixie House, correct? From the time I walked in and started seeing all of the people, the other workers that I have worked with, been a part of the business with, associates, it was absolutely awesome to be involved in that type of environment, to come across all the people that I really enjoy being around in the business was awesome. The atmosphere was just, I guess you could say it was overwhelming, because there were people there such as Stan Hansen, Gorgeous Gary Young, Black Bart, people that I watched when I was younger, and I don't want to age them, but when I was younger, watching them, seeing them in the magazines, the professional wrestling magazines, which I collected, I couldn't wait till they came out on the newsstand every month because I'd go pick those up. But to actually see those people and talk to them and meet them was outstanding. And they were very down-to-earth, very friendly people. So the total environment itself was just, I don't know, it was very, very overwhelming just to and to be reunited, well, like I said, with the local indie guys that I've worked with before, you know, and to come up and get hugs from everybody. Hey, how you been? Et cetera, et cetera. So, I do need to take a moment and, you know, take my hat off to you, so to speak. Dude, you put a lot of effort into making that a professional event. That's not like a, you know, low-class type, hey, come get something to eat and we'll hand you a piece of paper saying you're in the Hall of Fame. You spent a lot of money, of your own money. You spent a lot of your own time, and I know you're a new dad, so I know how that works because that takes a lot of your time too. But your devotion and your dedication to the business showed on Saturday how passionate you are, of how you want to make sure everything is done correctly. You're one of the last few that want to make sure that the business is run the way it's supposed to. And there's several promoters that are still around, you know, Balch Springs, Louisiana, Arkansas, yourself. But there's Oklahoma, there's a couple. There's still not there's so many shows that are run that people are out for the money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to slam anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody angry. I'm just saying there's still a few that have the heart for the business, and that's the only reason that they're in it. And you're one of those. And it showed on Saturday by the way you put everything together. You had an organized, you know, program of what was going on, who was going to induct who. That the actual awards themselves are, dude, that had to set you back a lot of money right there. So, I mean, that alone shows how much you really are dedicated to this business. So kudos and hats off to you for putting this thing together, because I think it was outstanding. I had a great time. Once again, I got to see all my buddies and all my fellow, you know, workers. So, yeah, that was an overwhelming experience. I still think back on it right now and you know, in my mind, and I'm thinking, man, that was awesome. I had a great time.
Well, thank you, Spoiler. I appreciate. I'm humbled by your words. I really am. I appreciate it. You came to me a few weeks ago, and you're the general manager of HWE. But a few weeks ago, you came to me when I added a name to the show, and you came to me in confidence, and of course, you know, I knew about your needs. But you came to me and you asked for something, and we go way back, and I did it for two reasons. Number one, I want to see this match, and I'm not the only one because we announced this match this past weekend, and it has gotten an overwhelming response. But number two, I have enough respect for both of y'all because after a few minutes after you asked me, I got a phone call from Tim Storm, and he wanted the same thing. You two guys came to me a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, you know, we wrestled each other, but it's been a long time. But we got something to prove. And I don't, you know, a lot of people say that Tim inspires people. He inspires a lot of people because he's still out there and he's still going. So you've been on the sideline for a couple of years. You're still in ridiculous shape. You were in ridiculous shape. You were in better shape than 90% of the guys who are 20 years younger than you. You know, when you were working every weekend. And not to shoot, folks. Shoot is the truth, and that's it. You came to me, so now I've made it official. On June 8th, it's going to be Spoiler 2000 against Tim Storm. It's going to happen in Fort Worth, Texas, in an IHWE ring. It's going to be Hall of Famer, yourself, against a future Hall of Famer, because Tim's been announced for next year's class. So you got the max. This show's got Mike Fox. It's got Franco, Wally Dartman, Matt Riviera. It is Prince Alfarad, APOC. Black Bart's going to be there. It is stacked from pillar to post, from top to bottom. You've been to the venue. What are your thoughts on June 8th when you step inside that ring for the first time in a long time, and you're going to be staring at Tim Storm across that ring?
Well, let's talk about a little background. Everybody that you mentioned, I've actually been on shows with before. Some of them I have actually worked with. I have the utmost respect for every single person that you've mentioned. I first met Tim Storm, I guess, when we were working for PCW in Arlington. That's been several years ago. And from the first time that I met him in the locker room, what an outstanding guy. You know, class all the way, very polite, very, very professional. I guess that's a word that I could say. And, you know, honestly, about this match that you put together, and once again we go back to what we were talking about earlier, thanks to Akbar, I've got to work with a lot of people, and I'm not bragging here because that's one thing I do not like to do, because I consider myself very fortunate to be even part of this business. But, I mean, I've got to be in the ring with people like Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Honky Tonk Man, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the Nasty Boys, on and on, Kamala, One Man Gang, all of these guys. I mean, I owe that to Akbar too, but there's always been one person that I've really, really wanted to be in the ring with, and that was Tim Storm, and you've made this happen. Now, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, David, you know, I've had my share of being the heel or bad guy in my time, and I'm totally aware that the fans are what keeps this business going. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally aware of that fact. But from what I understand, Mr. Storm has kind of had a change of attitude here lately, and I'm kind of looking at it as if maybe the connection is Matt Riviera. I'm fully aware of Matt Riviera. I've worked several shows with him up in Arkansas and several other places, so I know how he operates and I know how he works. So the only thing is I'm concerned about Tim Storm, the influence that Matt Riviera has over him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, once again, I'm going to go in it with an open mind, and I'm going to go in it hopefully preparing to work with him or wrestle him as what I've seen before. I don't know. Things may have changed. We'll see what happens, and I may have to, you know, go on the fly as far as adjusting my skills or whatever. But anyways, to get right down to it, the bottom line is I've always been in admiration of Tim Storm. I'm super pumped about being able to work with him because my matches are limited now due to the fact I have had knee replacement. I do feel like I'm ready to go. I feel like I'm 100%. I'm training hard. I'm back in the weight room. I'm doing cardio. I'm ready to go with this, so we'll just see what happens. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you actually were able to put us together because it has been a dream of mine to be able to work with Tim. So we'll see what happens.
Well, two things. Number one, it's going to be our honor to all sit back and watch this as a promoter, but number one, as a fan still of this business, because everybody in this business is still a fan. And anytime there's two guys in the ring who know how to get it done, hey, I want to see that. So I'm gonna sit back and enjoy it with all the fans in Fort Worth. But I think what Spoiler is trying to get out this message is Spoiler is a Hall of Famer, and he appreciates the fans. I've seen Spoiler on both sides of the fence, and if Spoiler has to get dirty, he was broke in by the General Skandar Akbar. So people need to remember that. If he has to get dirty, he will. Is that right?
That's right. And, you know, you mentioned, you hit on a good topic here. The thing is, I remember what it was like to be a fan. I grew up going to the Sportatorium on Tuesdays, and then it switched over to Friday nights. I was one of those guys that stood around the original Spoiler's car with a program and a pen trying to get his autograph when he came out of that side door of the Sportatorium. I know what it's like. I know how the fans, because I was one myself, I grew up a huge fan of professional wrestling. I know what it's like to anticipate seeing a main event match or a big match. So I'm going to try my best to do everything I can to make this, to live up to the hype, so to speak. I don't want to let Tim Storm down, right? I don't want to let the fans down, for sure. I don't want to let you down, that is the guy that put this together and, you know, that has the passion to make this thing keep going. So there's a lot riding on this match. Not only two people that have been around a while and have, you know, been around the whole country wrestling. No, that's not it. It's still putting on a quality match for the fans that pay their money, their hard-earned money, to walk in and watch the show. So I'm going to do my best. I promise I'll do that. Like I said, I don't know what Tim Storm and Matt Riviera have up their sleeve, but hopefully I'll be ready to deal with whatever it is. So I'll be honest with you. I'm just totally grateful that I'm included. Let me just put it that way. You Yeah, I've been on the other side of the fence as far as being the old bad guy with that bar, and all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, the fans have always been there, whether you're hated, whether you're liked. Fans are always there, and that's what makes it successful. So the fans are the foundation, and then you build from there. So you've always got to remember them, man. You always got to keep them in mind. And I've learned a lesson. The past several years, I've worked several shows to where that's been my main focus. Pleasing the fans, making sure they're happy, trying to give everything I can to make sure they get their money's worth, so to speak. Because bottom line, if they didn't show up, then you wouldn't have a successful show. So, to put it in a nutshell, I hate to keep rambling on and on, but that's basically it. I mean, I'm totally fan aware, I guess you'd call it now, for the new phrase. I'm totally fan aware of what's expected when they go to a wrestling event.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Spoiler 2000, we want to thank you for coming on. We want to thank you for taking the time. We'll try to get you back on before June 8th. I know you're in heavy training for Tim Storm. I know you take this match seriously because you and Tim are the ones who came to me and requested it and pretty much demanded it. And when I stepped back and I looked at this match, I was like, oh, my goodness. Like I said, we announced it this past weekend during Hall of Fame weekend, and the fan response has been ridiculous in a good way. Everybody's looking forward to it. So, Spoiler, thank you for coming on. Thank you for all the years of service to me, whether we've been on the same side or opposite sides. And as far as you showing up and doing what was asked, you always have. You never complained. You have shown up when there was no money. So I appreciate it. Thank you, and I can't wait to see you and Storm hook it up on June 8th.
David, hey, listen, you don't need to thank me, to be honest with you. Just having me on your show is thanks enough. So I hope everybody is able to come out. I hope we can get together before June 8th and, get together again and maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to do, take some phone calls or whatever. I want to get back to what gave to me, so to speak, and that was the business. I mean, I've met a lot of wonderful people, and so, yeah, you don't need to thank me because I'm just happy to be a part of it. So, anyways, brother, thank you for allowing me to talk, and hopefully we'll hook up later on.
All right, Spoiler. Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
You bet. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the legendary Spoiler 2000. He is second generation as far as the Spoiler name. He was handed it. He was given it by Don Jardine. He was trained by the General Skandar Akbar. It gets no bigger than that, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back with more IHWE Radio.
The Legends of Mid for the first time ever. The Mid-South Legends Fan Fest will take place Friday, April 4th in Charlotte, Louisiana at the Seeger Center. Don't miss Q&A with the founder of Mid-South Wrestling, Cowboy Bill Watts, with Jim Cornette. A Cajun dinner with the stars. Photo ops with legends like the Midnight Express, Mr. Wrestling 2, Mr. Olympia, Kamala, and more. Oh, but there's more. In the evening, the Battle Lines Live Wrestling event will feature a JYD Memorial Cup Battle Royale honoring the late Junkyard Dog, plus the Rock and Roll Express, Bill Dundee, Tommy Dreamer, the Pope, Elijah Bird, the Masterpiece, Chris Adonis, will all be in action. Plus, Dark Journey returns to manage the Empire in a 6-man tag team match. And Mickey James will take on Angelina Love in the Squared Circle. Make your plans now to attend this once-in-a-lifetime event Friday, April 4th at the Seeger Center in Charlotte. For more information, go to MidSouthLegends.com. Be a part of Mid-South history today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, MidSouthFanFest.com is coming up. WrestleMania weekend in Louisiana. Shadow of New Orleans. MidSouthLegends.com. Check out Mid-South Fan Fest on Facebook. It's going to be spectacular. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this past weekend was the greatest night of my professional wrestling. I say career. And I was surrounded by warriors and veterans that had made a living off this business and made a good living. So for me to say career, I don't mean it like that because there have been guys that have been in it a lot longer than me, that have drawn a lot more money than me, that have made money in this business. As far as my whatever my stay or my run in wrestling, my wrestling life, I should say. It was the greatest night ever. My son was there. My wife was there. My father was there. Some of the biggest names ever in Texas were there. It just was absolutely spectacular. So, I cannot begin to tell you how big of a thrill it was. Stan the Lariat Hansen, gorgeous Gary Young. Wow. Folks, I want to say this. We filmed the Hall of Fame for the first time ever. We filmed the entire ceremony. We are going to be uploading it to our Global Digital Media YouTube channel, and fans from all over can watch the Hall of Fame for absolutely free. We're not going to charge you. We're not looking to profit off this. I want everybody to experience what we did. Now, being there and seeing it are two different things. I want to thank the Gordy family for coming out. Connie Gordy and her two daughters, Terry. Awesome people, just a wonderful family. The family at Maniac Matt Bourne, I got to hang out with them this weekend, and amazing. The family at Skandar Akbar has always been great. Ray Evans' family, awesome Kong's family. Just anybody who was there on Saturday, just the utmost respect. There were a lot of good people. Dr. Ken Ramey was there. Dr. Ken Ramey, who managed the interns for so many years, Memphis Wrestling History, he was there. I talked to him earlier today. We're going to get him on IHWE radio sometime. And as we lead up to June 8th in the IHWE Experience, we're going to have superstars on here. Tim Storm's going to go one-on-one with Spoiler 2000. You're going to have APOC, the best in the world, as he calls himself, against another Hall of Famer, the Crown Prince of Crimson, Prince Al-Farad. Matt Riviera, the current IHWE heavyweight champion, will be in the house. Main event, Mike Fox laces up the boots in an IHWE ring again against the laughing, cane-swinging, head-banging freak, Wally Darkman. And what about this one? Fort Worth is going to be stinking when Michael Faith, the Samoan Beast, goes one-on-one with Hall of Famer Canyon. The two most dominant big men, and let me rephrase it, the two most dominant super heavyweights for the last 15 years in this state meet one-on-one in Fort Worth. And we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the matches that you will see on June 8th. We got a lot more to announce. We're going to be announcing some of it on the road to the IHW Experience, but a lot of it is going to be a surprise. You're going to have to buy a ticket. $10 general admission. We've got student discounts with your school ID for UTA and TCU students. We've got discounts for kids and for military personnel. All you got to do is show your ID, and you get in for absolutely free. It's our way of saying thank you to the men and women who fight for our freedom every day in the U.S. Armed Forces. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is great. It has been great being on here with y'all tonight. I greatly appreciate y'all having me and listening to me. We have a short show because there's so much to do. We'll be back on our normal time next week. I'm not sure what Michael has planned, but we'll be back on. I want to thank Spoiler 2000 for coming on late notice and hanging with me. I really wanted somebody on here tonight to kind of hang with me instead of y'all having to listen to me for 30 minutes. But I want to thank Spoiler 2000. He's awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, June 8th, IHW Experience, Facebook.com/IHWE Pro Wrestling. If you want to see pictures from this past Saturday night's Texas Wrestling Hall of Fame, YouTube.com/IHWE2009. If you want to see the Hall of Fame in its entirety on YouTube, and you can follow me at HXC Fuller on Twitter, y'all will hear me right here next week on IHW Radio with Michael. Happy anniversary, Mike. I hope you're having a good one, you and the missus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. Much love to everybody, and we will be right back here next week on IHWE Radio. Good night.